Welcome, everyone. Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, a very interesting case that is rarely talked about. It's been a long time now, but it was the actual case of Dean Paul Martin, the son of Dean Martin, the famous singer, celebrity, Rat Pack guy. I don't know how many younger people know about this person. He was very popular at his time, having a TV show on for years, did many movies, including the Matt Helm movies. So he's pretty well known for anybody that's at a certain age. I don't know if younger people know about him or not. But he was very active in the entertainment business in Las Vegas, and of course, a good friend of Frank Sinatra and part of the infamous Rat Pack. Now, his son was a actor, celebrity, was involved in music groups, etc. A very attractive guy. He was also apparently a well-known flyer and had his license at a very young age. And he was in the California Air National Guard as a pilot. In those days, they were flying F-4 planes. I don't know if those are Phantoms or not, but it was 1987 when he was flying his plane. This is when Reagan was in office still. So Reagan was still in office, so that means that, and was friends with Dean Martin, his father. And so it was a normal training mission that went out. Apparently, 3 planes went out that day from a air base. Was it March Air Force Base? I don't remember what it said in the article there. On a training mission, and he had a co-pilot with him. So they're flying in this plane, and it apparently disappeared off the radar. And the last time they tracked him, it was at a very high altitude, about 9,000 feet or more. And he was over a mountain area. Now, what's interesting is, of course, this is Southern California. And but apparently in the mountain regions, and Southern California does have mountain regions around it that have a lot of snow and a lot of bad weather. Up in the San Bernardino Mountains, which is a couple-hour drive up the mountains, and you're in the mountains, which is the amazing thing about Los Angeles. So apparently there was bad weather there. And so there's no really information. I'm not going to spend hours and hours hunting up exactly what happened, but the bottom line appears to be that there was bad weather. And there was bad weather, and he got caught in some sort of possibly snowstorm or some bad weather above the mountains there. And this may have caused the crash. Or he just, planes fail. Their engines go bad, and you, unfortunately, particularly with a fighter jet, you just drop like a stone most of the time. I'm not sure how much glide power they have, but you get into bad trouble. And if you're in an airplane or a ship, the old saying is that the ocean and the sky are very unforgiving. I would say even more so with the sky. So, there was no hint of any problems here. Dean Paul was fit. He was young. There was no problems going on. There was no other issues that we're aware of. I don't know if we can in any way bring in any kind of conspiracies. These things happen. Airplanes are dangerous. It's interesting that Audie Murphy, the famous most decorated soldier of World War II, died in a plane crash as well. Not in a military plane crash, but in a private plane crash, as so many people really have with these small aircraft that we have out there. Now, the interesting part of this story is not this general tragedy. The interesting part of the story is that this plane disappeared. So the whole idea is they couldn't find it. They sent out a big search crew. I believe that Ronald Reagan was involved in this, or at least there was some talk that he helped push the search operation along, maybe committed more resources to it than normally. And they could not find the plane for some time. How did they find the plane? Well, this is the interesting story and something that everybody wants to try. The dumb bunkers out there are constantly puking out their vomit on the world stage with lying, which is what all they've done. And of course, the unamazing James Randi was caught in so many different lies. But the bottom line is that two psychics were called in. And you got to remember that Ronald Reagan had used psychics. He was big into astrology, and this was something that was perfectly acceptable, regardless of the fact of his kind of fake conservatism, and which I believe he never went to church or anything else. But the bottom line is that they called in two psychics to locate the plane, and they located the plane. That's right. The psychic said that it crashed in this particular area of the mountains. They went and looked in that area because you got to remember, a little plane is very hard to see in mountains, especially if there's snow and other things there. So they were unable to find it with typical military incompetence, flying around looking for stuff, trying to get the beep from the black box. They were unable to find things that way. So the psychic gave them the general location. They went to that location and were able to find the plane and the bodies in it. So this is just another 100% verified truth of psychics finding people. Now, there are a lot of bad psychics, and I'm not sure these are fraudulent psychics because they like to say that people are doing this just to exploit people, like Sylvia Brown and others who seem to have horrific track records. But good psychics are very valuable, and they have always brought people very good information. The question is, where's a good psychic? Where's a good doctor? Where's a good lawyer? Well, I'm still looking for those as well. But the bottom line is that a good psychic who can read you or give you information is worth unbelievable amounts. Supposedly, they also joined Jimmy Carter's administration that was previous to Ronald Reagan's, that this is how they find a spy plane that was crashed somewhere in the jungle as well. The remote viewing people were able to find that, and Jimmy Carter stated that in news and in the public. So here's again a proven case that everyone should be very, very well aware of, because these dumb bunkers, these idiot skeptics, these lying scumbags that have no education, no training, no background, want to make statements on things that they're totally ignorant of without getting information whatsoever, stating that psychics have never helped anybody. And of course, there is a problem, but many, many police departments have used psychics with great success, and there are hundreds of cases of this. What these kind of dumb bunkers want to do is bring out the failure cases, and unfortunately, there is a lot of failure in psychic readings as well, hunting people down. And I would generally tell any psychics not to get involved with the police. The police are not your friends. So good psychics are probably smart enough to stay away from these things. It certainly would be nice to help people and their families locate bodies or other things, but this generally can get you into hot water. So you got to be very careful of what you're doing, because the game of any kind of police department is to get a record of solving a case. And it doesn't matter whether you're innocent or guilty. They want that on their record. So if you go in and try and help them, they're going to be suspicious of you. But here's yet again a proven case where psychics were able to locate a particular down plane and the bodies with it, as there are many others. And of course, there are psychics that I think are well-meaning, but aren't very good, like with everything else. Just like there aren't very many good doctors, there aren't very many good lawyers, there aren't many good people in general. So like everything in life, you have to be very cautious. Because most likely, when you talk to somebody, they're going to be a person that's not very good at what they do. And when it comes to psychics or anything else, and that goes with medical cases and even law cases, or is that doctor or lawyer familiar with that particular type of case? Well, it's a whole complete con game when we get into these things. So everything is difficult. But, when it comes to psychics being successful or not, it's pretty black and white. And if you are successful, everybody knows it if they want to give credit towards that. And of course, that's the other thing. Are people going to be honest about all this stuff and actually state where they got their information from, or are they going to discount it that the psychics were? And I get this all the time from people when you help them and everything else. Well, I was still doing it myself, and I had wrote this great letter, and all these things. So you have to be careful of people who don't want to give you credit as well. But the bottom line is that they were searching for this plane for quite some time, were unable to find it. I believe it was several days. And then all of a sudden, once the psychic said, look in this particular area, they were able to find it. So it's another proof of the power of the human consciousness and how it can be used to track things, to find things, as has been proven pretty well, even with a lot of the nonsense we hear out of the government remote viewing program, which we have no idea how much of that is valid. But the bottom line, it is a valid technique which people have used for years and has a rate of success that's pretty good. And of course, psychics always tend to be better than government remote viewers, as was tested in a documentary that was on TV by the Reader's Digest in the 70s, who showed Joseph McGonigal, the number one stooge in remote viewing, and a highly well-known psychic who had helped the police in other cases to solve cases as well. And again, a lot of this is covered up because the police don't want to be seen as the bumbling boobs there are and have to go to psychics to get the real message. But this psychic identified this person who was missing and gave all the exact information, the color of the car, the condition of the person who was actually dead, and many other facts. So she was 100% correct, while McGonigal was 100% wrong. He identified the person as being alive. He gave the wrong car make and color. All of that he failed on, which is so typical of what goes on, particularly with these military people, instead of leaving it to professionals like this psychic who does this all the time and gets excellent results. So it goes on and on of the realities out there, but don't believe anything that you are told by regular society and the nonsense that they have been actually brainwashed with. As I read in one comment on YouTube, that in all these years they've never proved psychic power. Well, they've been studying, quote, psychic phenomena, psychic power, whatever you want to call it, for 125 years now, and they have reams and reams of proof that this is a real phenomena, and that all these areas have been proven that these things are happening, including remote viewing and so many other of occult science areas. It's 100% been proven over 125 years. So don't believe any of that nonsense. What they're doing is picking a few examples of people that they have exposed, or people that have told people wrong information. And I believe most of this is done by psychics who are just not very good. They're not stealing from people. They're not giving people messages just to take their money. They're just wrong. Just like the surgeon who kills people and the lawyer who loses your case. They just failed. Now, if we would take the stigma off of this and we would test these psychics, then we could use them as a fantastic resource in all aspects of life. But the bottom line is, when it comes down to particularly military type operations, are you going to commit people on what a remote viewer tells you or what a psychic tells you? Well, most likely when you have lives involved and everything else, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to go on psychic information and give it much validation. Psychic information is great as a backup data to confirm what you have probably confirmed in other areas, or to find out if the data you have is in doubt. So if a psychic tells you something different than what your intelligence tells you, well, this may be something to look into. Or it could confirm what you've been told, which should give you more of a go-ahead, green light attitude towards a particular situation. So I hope everybody understands that. And this is just one of many cases that involve celebrities and other people that is very little known. and covered up by all of the dumb bunkers and society who is always trying to stop this kind of information from getting out. And as I said, like everything, there's good and bad, and finding the what is the good often can be difficult, whether your life is on the line with surgery, or your life is on the line with a legal case, or your life is on the line with a psychic case. It's all the same mishmash of nonsense because you have a bunch of very bad people that are involved in this that are just not good at what they do. But if we want to see real frauds, well, we can look at government and so many other things in life that's really a fraud. I mean, to go to a doctor who should say, well, maybe you live, maybe you die, who knows? So that's really what they ought to say. And there's nothing proven. You're a part of their practice. They're practicing on you. And there's nothing guaranteed anywhere. So we got to keep that in mind. But here's yet more proof of how psychics have been able to locate things, whether it's the Jimmy Carter down spy plane or the crashed military plane of Dean Paul Martin. Until next time.